14 people killed in a collision between a minibus taxi and a truck in Randfontein. The North Gauteng High Court rules that the NPA's decision to drop charges against President Jacob Zuma was irrational and must be reviewed. It's Friday. Hello and welcome to it. You're watching eNEWS Direct. I'm Duduzile Ramela.
And I'm Sandy Bekangose. Good evening.
To comment on any of our stories, you can of course find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNEWS Direct.
And tonight's hashtags are spy tapes and Randfontein crash.
We start with this. 14 people have died in an accident in Randfontein, west of Johannesburg. It's suspected that a taxi tried to overtake a truck but collided with the vehicle head-on.
Eyewitnesses at the Randfontein accident scene say they've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I was driving towards this direction. In front of me, there was a brewery's truck and another small car, then a taxi, and then another small car behind the taxi. Then I saw the taxi coming from this lane, going to the opposite lane, and it went very fast.
14 people were killed in the collision. 2 more are fighting for their lives in hospital. It took emergency services hours to clear the scene.
Then we'll get somebody to put it on top here.
Emergency personnel say they arrived at the scene at 11 o'clock on Friday morning, and at 4 p.m. the scene was still not cleared. Acting Gauteng Transport MEC Barbara Creasy cautioned motorists to be extra careful and vigilant on the road.
We would urge all drivers to exercise maximum patience and caution over the long weekend. I think that over the Easter weekend we did see some decrease in road accidents and fatalities. I think that what happened here today is a somber reminder that we can never be too careful when we get behind the driving wheel.
Authorities are appealing to families who suspect their loved ones may have been involved in this accident to contact their nearest police station. Zikhona Chona, Randfontein.
The National Prosecuting Authority's decision to drop charges against President Jacob Zuma before he took office was irrational and must be reviewed. That's the ruling of the North Gauteng High Court in the so-called spy tapes case in Pretoria today. However, the court says it cannot force the prosecuting authority to reinstate charges, as that decision lies with NPA head Shaun Abrahams.
Barely a month after the Constitutional Court ruling on eNCA, another damning court judgment against President Jacob Zuma.
The decision of the first respondent dated 1st April 2009 to discontinue the prosecution of the case against the third respondent in accordance with the indictment served on him on the 28th December 2007 is reviewed and set aside.
The ruling stated that the ultimate decision to drop charges should not have been made by the National Prosecuting Authority.
The court of law is the appropriate forum to deal with the abuse of process doctrine, not extrajudicial process.
After 7 years since they first brought the matter to court, the DA claimed the result as a victory.
Those charges must be continued, and Jacob Zuma must have what he's always wanted, his day in court.
The ANC welcomed the ruling, but says it will not tarnish its or the president's image.
We will go through this, but it's part of strengthening the African National Congress. And I think people understand the ANC, that it's not about individual, it's about the collective, and it's about the organization of the people.
President Zuma also responded to the judgment, saying he will study the ruling and decide on his next move. It's likely this ruling will be appealed, heading to the Supreme Court of Appeal and probably the Constitutional Court. And while President Jacob Zuma has not been charged and is innocent until proven guilty, a cloud of doubt has returned to his culpability in corruption. Nicholas Bauer, Pretoria.
Teachers could soon need licenses to practice. That's if the Basic Education Department has its way. The move aimed at newly qualified teachers is expected to improve the quality of teaching in the classroom. It will also see licenses being withdrawn from errant educators, but some are not convinced.
Teachers may soon join doctors, lawyers and other professionals who have to be licensed before they can practice. Well, that's if government has its way.
The license means that when you graduate, you will get a provisional license over a 3-year period. And in that period, expected to go for technical training, which will improve your teaching skills. Once you've completed the training, then you'll get a fully fledged license, renewable over a 5-year period.
The proposal is part of recommendations made in 2003 by a committee looking at improving teacher education. But licensing alone will not solve current problems. One expert says teaching, especially during the first 3 years of schooling, needs to improve.
Without focusing explicitly and getting that right, no matter what we do, whether it's teacher licensing, whether it's any forms of professional development or standards, none of it's going to work unless we address those 3 critical years of schooling.
Teacher Union Neptosa says licensing is a best practice in some countries, but Majority Union SATU says proper consultation is needed.
They got their qualifications, they met the minimum requirements, that's why they got appointed. So we will want to understand where this question of the possible doubt will be coming from.
While plans are still in their early stages, licensing is expected to only affect new teachers entering the system. Sikelelwa Mdingi, Johannesburg.
Residents in 2 of Cape Town's biggest townships are stepping up their fight for proper sanitation. They've made thousands of public submissions on how the mayor should spend her upcoming budget. And they're threatening legal action if toilets in Khayelitsha and Gugulethu are not improved.
Protesters march on the mayor's office. They've handed over 3,000 submissions for improved sanitation in the city's informal settlements. Residents want Patricia de Lille to make provision in her budget for flush toilets.
People are talking about the many issues that are happening in informal settlements when they have to use sanitation facilities. We know of the story of Sinokolo, who was murdered, raped and murdered this year. There are a lot of those cases that are not reported on, and people have mentioned those, saying that toilets are very far, temporary toilets are not dignified and they're not suitable.
The protesters are threatening legal action if their submissions are not considered. The mayor says the city's 40 billion rand budget has to cater for all of its 120 wards. But there are other reasons why flush toilets can't be installed in some areas.
There are some places in Khayelitsha where you simply cannot put full flush toilets. And we gave them the reasons. Where it's land, people have invaded land, it's on private property. Where it's on a water retention pond, where it's under an electric pylon. All of those reasons we gave them. So you cannot provide full flush toilets just anywhere in Khayelitsha.
All the public submissions will be reviewed before the final budget is tabled next month. Atim Tongana, Cape Town.
A quick look at world news now, and a man wearing a panda suit has been shot and seriously wounded after allegedly making a bomb threat against a U.S. television station. Police were called in when the suspect demanded that an affiliate of Fox TV broadcast the contents of his flash drive. He was shot when he refused to take his hands out of his pockets. The explosive device turned out to be chocolate bars wrapped in foil and attached to wires. And there have been more violent protests at a rally by U.S. presidential hopeful Donald Trump. A police car was vandalized and more than 20 arrests made. Trump has declared himself the Republican Party's presumptive nominee after winning 5 state primaries.
So Cruz is getting close.
To hand over to Duduzile, who has all of his social media.
Indeed I do. Thank you so much, Sandile. And as we mentioned earlier in the bulletin, the North Gauteng High Court has ruled that Mokotedi Mpie's decision to drop charges against President Jacob Zuma was irrational and should be set aside. We are asked you what you think of that decision, and here are your responses. 72% of respondents voting Zuma must face the law, while 5% believe it's a conspiracy against the president. 4% say it's good for accountability, while 19% say rule of law wins again. We move on to another issue of interest on social media, which is the EFF's manifesto launch that's taking place at Orlando Stadium in Soweto tomorrow. Party leaders have been holding community meetings to drum up support for the event. It's the first time the party will be contesting local government elections. In its first national elections in 2014, the EFF won more than 1 million votes. Remember, we do love to hear from you. You can, of course, check us out on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNEWS Direct. Or you can head on over to our website. That's eNCA.com/direct. Do stay with us after the break. We've got your business news as well as your detailed weekend weather forecast. Money matters now, and consumers should start to see a decline in the price of red meat. Well, that's the word from red meat producers. The prices of beef and lamb have fallen in recent weeks.
That smoky aroma of a chisa nyama. Sehume Mahabo buying beef for her customers. And she knows at 30 rand a piece, this will be gone within minutes. She buys her beef from a local butchery and admits prices have dropped over the past few weeks.
It went down a bit, yeah. Because a kilo of corner bay 54 rand, 59, so it went down like 54.
Okay. The Red Meat Producers Organization says the producer price of lamb has fallen by 30% in the past 9 weeks, and that of beef by 8% in 4 weeks.
I think at this stage it's a bargain to buy red meat. The problem is, at this stage, the lower producer price has not filtered through to the trade in the whole of the trade.
But what has led to the price drops?
It's all about supply and demand. And at this stage, we know how the consumer at this stage suffers with a lot of increases. And I mean, the demand is not there, and the supply is there, so prices are going down.
Pick n Pay agrees that meat prices move in line with producer prices, but factors including the cost of processing and refrigeration also affect the retail price. The supermarket chain says it always aims to keep prices as low as possible. In a statement, Shoprite Checkers says it would continue to fight for lower food prices. And it seems Mahabo will have more red meat to sell, with prices expected to remain down until August. Malungelo Bui, Pretoria.
All right, let's see how the markets performed today. Let's check in with the Weather Center now. Here's Louis.
Good evening, everyone. A quick look at today's satellite imagery shows the strong cold front moving in over the southern parts of the country. Lots of cold air following closely behind it. And this front also brought wet weather to parts of the Western and Eastern Cape. And that wet weather has been spreading northwards towards the Northern Cape as well. Heading into tomorrow, and there's going to be a possibility for early snowfalls over much of the Eastern Cape Mountains, in particular for the Drakensberg areas, and spreading towards the southern Drakensberg of KwaZulu-Natal. We could also see light snowfall rainfalls over the foothills around the Kokstad and Matatiele areas. KwaZulu-Natal is going to be cloudy and wet on Saturday. Very cold conditions for the southern interior. There's a possibility for sleet at first around Kokstad. And into the Eastern Cape, similar conditions expected. We will see some clearance taking place later on, but it's going to be a bitterly cold day, especially over the mountainous areas. The Western Cape will see some clearance, although there will still be a few showers along the south coast and in the Little Karoo, while in the Northern Cape it remains mainly dry. We're going to see cloud cover at first for some areas, but sunny weather will return to the province later on. It's going to be a much colder day for this province. Cooler air will also be pushing in across the Free State. There is a possibility for a few light showers for some areas, including around Bloemfontein, and it will be a dry day for the northwest, although quite a lot cooler than what it has been for a couple of weeks. Heading into Limpopo, and it's going to be a dry day for the province, but by later on we will see a few showers developing along the escarpment, hot once again through the central parts. And over in Mpumalanga, we will see wet weather developing, in particular over the escarpment, and there is a likelihood for a couple of showers on the Highveld as well. Into Gauteng, and you will start feeling the effects of the cold front, especially in the late afternoon and evening as colder air starts to push in across the province. Let's look ahead now to Sunday, and it's going to be mainly dry over the country. Colder into Gauteng, Johannesburg with a high of 19 degrees, sunshine returning to the Cape provinces. And by Monday, it will be sunny and dry for almost all of the country, and temperatures start bouncing back across South Africa.
Thank you, Louis. After the break, the new Lara Croft gets ready for a Tomb Raider reboot. Welcome back. Now, Lara Croft gets a new look in a Tomb Raider reboot, and Disney's Jungle Book is set to top the box office again this weekend.
Yep, let's take a look at those entertainment stories making headlines.
Academy Award-winning actress Alicia Vikander is the new Lara Croft. The Swedish actress who won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar for her role in The Danish Girl will feature in the Tomb Raider reboot. Angelina Jolie was the first actress to take on the role in the original movie and its sequel.
Poor, sweet little cub. What are you doing so deep in the jungle?
Disney's The Jungle Book is expected to dominate box office ratings again this weekend.
Kid, I got ears. My ears got...
The film is estimated to bring in another $43 million US. The adaptation has already earned over $576 million worldwide.
That's a song about the good life.
And in Egypt, a non-profit initiative called Cinema Everywhere wants to bring movies to disadvantaged audiences who don't have access to motion pictures. Films are screened in coffee shops, schools, factories, and other spaces across the country, and are produced by Egyptian and Arab filmmakers.
Here's a reminder of your top stories before we say goodbye. 14 people killed in a collision between a minibus taxi and a truck in Randfontein. The North Gauteng High Court rules that the NPA's decision to drop charges against President Jacob Zuma was irrational and must be reviewed. And that's our lot for the week.
It is. We're on a 72-hour break. Up next, Rhythm City.
Remember, we do love to hear from you. You can send us an email to enewsdirect@etv.co.za.
You can, of course, just talk to us on Twitter and Facebook, and the handle that you need is @eNewsDirect.
Until Monday night, have a fantastic weekend. Bye-bye.